Greetings, this is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Today's talk focuses on the fact that Elon Musk has a management strategy called the 30% rule. The core idea is that anytime there's a project to be done by your employees, you kind of calculate how much time that would take, and because you have great people, you condense that into 30% of the time that they actually need, and then set that standard on a constant basis. There are some goods and bads of this, but it really explains a lot more of how and why Tesla works. Greetings, this is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Wie geht's für stets? Zdravstvuyte, ni hao ma. German, French, and Chinese. Thanks for taking time out once again. If you haven't already subscribed, it'd be greatly appreciated if you did so. If this is your first time, to ensure that as we produce more material, you get an opportunity to stay on top of Tesla. Today's talk focuses on a concept that's called the 30% rule. If you review a lot that's been written about Elon Musk and a bunch of the other most successful folks in Silicon Valley like Steve Jobs, there's a management style that several of the folks have come up with, and Elon makes it a core part of his management process. And what that management style is that you come up with realistically a project that let's say takes a year to do. And because you have brilliant people that you've hired and you're working with, the process is that you ask them to accomplish that same project in 3 months. And so what this does is allows you to really wring the best out of your folks. It gets people's energy going. And in general, Tesla's enjoyed a lot of success with Elon electing to enforce performance parameters of this type. The problem so there are some goods and bad parts of this. The good part of it is that if it works, you have a great situation because all of a sudden you have all this work that's accomplished in record time. So the return on money, return on time, everything is excellent. The bad part about this is when you miss these deadlines, it creates all kinds of other problems. So Elon Musk has enjoyed a lot of success with this. And one of the examples of how this has not worked is looking at the Tesla Autopilot. When Tesla first decided to break up with Mobileye in September of 2016, Elon Musk famously said that, "Don't worry, the new version that we have for Autopilot is already better than what Mobileye is offering. So there need not be any worry, we're in good shape." So his lips said everything's great, we're better off in terms of how we're going to perform and can perform than what Mobileye is doing, so there's no problem. Once the switch occurred from Mobileye to Tesla Vision in late 2016, it was discovered that it wasn't ready. It has been found by users that Mobileye technology I actually think it's still better than Tesla Vision a year later, but in terms of features like summon your vehicle, etc., all the features that Mobileye were core ideas to Mobileye, what Mobileye was doing for Tesla, have about now been caught up with. So Elon claimed that all of these features were available as of last year, and as of this year, let's say August timeframe, is when most of the basic features were come up with, and that period is about a year. And it's my argument that in the case of the Autopilot, the Tesla Vision still isn't up to snuff, and the main challenge is that all of the data acquired that can be loaded into the vehicle to be studied and determine, driving routes, etc., Mobileye's system has way more data because they have 90% of the auto companies still working with them, whereas Tesla owners are stuck waiting until the number of Teslas increase and in different places, and that machine can learn more and then include that information so it can be used. So bottom line is that right now Elon Musk is electing to continue his process of sort of anticipatorily saying what people can do. This next brings us to the whole discussion of the Model 3. I'm going to include, probably at the beginning of this, you'll see a couple of photos, and when you look at these photos, you'll say, Greg, there's nothing there. And you're right. I asked an intern to take a photo of what would be the support buildings that bring that store and then present parts into the production of the Model 3. And you'll notice that there's an open field with construction fencing, but other than a little bit of what looks like plumbing stub outs in the middle of that field, there's nothing there. So as of mid-August, there's this promise that we're going to be building from these factory buildings, and those factory buildings hadn't been built yet while Model 3 was being announced. This also answered a question that I had been wondering about, which was, as you may recall, Elon Musk at the announcement promised 1,500 units produced in September and then full 5,000 units a week as of December. And when I look at the field and the fact that it's completely empty, as you can see, I could definitely see a 2 to 3 week period to get a piece of ground graded and then placing the concrete there at the bottom. In Silicon Valley right now, there's a great deal of what's called tilt-ups. So the concrete walls of the buildings of this nature are actually prefabricated, maybe nearby or on site, and all they do is sort of pour into a mold, and once the ground is ground and the foundation is prepared, it's simply a matter of tilting up these concrete walls against that ground element. So my assessment of things is that 2 to 2.5 months or 2 months or so worth of ground preparation, and then another month moving equipment into that facility once it's approved and completed sounds about right. So something in December or January should be when the scale Model 3 is available to be produced, based on the fact that you just don't have any place to produce all the parts and store them to load them into the Model 3's production. So it's big for investors for it to be late 30 days or 45 days, which I think might happen. But this really fits into Elon Musk's process. I'm also intrigued by when you talk about this process, there are certain people that make one statement and there'll be different audiences that interpret the statement differently. So for example, if there's a project that takes a year and a half to finish, and Elon boasts that that project will be done in 90 days, all of a sudden, all those employees have to figure out how they're going to meet those deadlines and not make Elon Musk look bad. And so this triggers a scramble where people are trying to complete a task because there's a large number of customers and investors that are all waiting for this execution/completion to occur. And we're just talking someone who's asking for way more than is realistically possible, and missed deadlines, etc., are a reflection of what the bad side of this is. And again, the good side is that you get things done in record time because you have a smart and a great staff. But there's really no build-in for, unexpecteds that could occur and how this might affect the situation. So I was kind of fascinated by this because there's a bunch of supporters of what Elon Musk is doing, including myself, that are like, hey, you know, he's set some amazingly complex targets or goals that are fairly aggressive for anyone, and stuff hasn't worked out. And so I would say that we'll continue to see him maintain this style of management. And really what he's talking about is when he's throwing a deadline out there, he's not meeting to the general public that this thing can be done and will be done in the timing described. He's really getting after his management team to articulate the fact that he knows exactly how long it's going to take, but he's actually asking everyone involved to go above and beyond to deliver in record time whatever the task is that they're trying to accomplish. So I think it's fascinating because a lot of the folks in the investment community are reading missing these deadlines and things that don't happen as they should as a sign that he may be involved in some kind of subterfuge or activity that's illegal, doesn't make sense, or he shouldn't be doing. And I suppose you could make that assumption, but the reality is that he's just asking a huge amount from everybody he works with. I'll close this out with a couple of quotes that I really think articulate him as a person and how he manages. There are two incidents. One is that Elon went on vacation to Brazil and got sick. And when he returned, his conclusion was, this is a sign that anytime you take a vacation, there's a potential that you could get sick. So that's a good reason not to take vacations. Another example of Elon's sort of life and management strategy is illustrated when they were near bankruptcy. Many of the Tesla employees in the early days, I want to say in the 2010 range, were in a situation, there was a lot of deadlines being pushed and a lot to accomplish in short periods of time, so people were working 7-day weeks. So when one of the managers asked him about making room and time so that folks could spend some time with their family, Elon's response was, oh, when we go bankrupt shortly, they'll have plenty of time to spend with their family because we'll be out of business. So Elon, as we all know, is a smart guy. He's a hard worker. He pushes his people hard. They've accomplished a great deal under this management structure. The challenge, though, is that in no way does he try to lay down realistic deadlines for people. And I think you're seeing the consequences of the process that he utilizes. Sometimes it works out, most times it doesn't, but I don't think there's a sense of trying to execute in a fashion that's negative for anybody involved. It's that he's energized by his ambition to accomplish and is focused on the goal, and the consequences of people and what happens, etc., are minor. Look forward to your comments in this regard. This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Tjus maakt goed, au revoir, later. Please like and subscribe, and look forward to our next conversation.